Can people who talk about philosophy never make mistakes? Socrates once said, "The only thing I know is that I know nothing." Quote, "That I know nothing." In fact, this statement is logically incorrect. This is a typical self-referential paradox. If Socrates truly knew that he knew nothing, then how could he be certain of the fact of knowing nothing? So here we fall into a contradiction. This clearly violates the law of excluded middle and the law of non-contradiction. Although in logical reasoning, this statement poses a serious problem, but in the field of philosophy, self-referential paradoxes are often used as a tool for abstract reflection. So, besides being a classic paradox, it is also a classic rhetorical device. Setting aside the grammatical and logical contradictions in this statement, we can see that what Socrates emphasized was that humans need to be aware of their limitations, to realize their ignorance, and that humans should not, after acquiring some knowledge, falling into thought and even giving rise to feelings of arrogance. Humans should always maintain a humble attitude, continuously pursue truth and wisdom. However, it is easier said than done. Theory and practice, the ideal and the reality ultimately have differences. Feelings of pride and complacency, in the history of human civilization, has never left us for a moment. And the views of another philosopher, Roger Bacon, perhaps can provide us with some help. In the previous episode, we mentioned Roger Bacon is one of the pioneers of the experimental scientific spirit. As early as the 13th century, he had already loudly emphasized the importance of scientific experiments. But in the historical context of that time, science was often associated with alchemy, or some evil witchcraft and magic. Linked together, Bacon suffered precisely from this social prejudice, and repeatedly faced persecution. But his unfortunate experiences made Bacon even more resolute towards ignorant people. The monk and the trial began. Roger Bacon believed, whether it is understanding God or understanding truth, humanity and true wisdom are both obstructed, and these obstacles can be classified into 4 types. The first, submitting to authoritative examples with many errors. The second, the long-term nature of customs and the abuse of tradition. The third, the prejudices of ignorant people. The fourth, ignorance disguised by pretended wisdom. Considering the context at that time, the authority Roger Bacon refers to here should be the religious authority of Thomas Aquinas. Monkina. The medieval religious authority should be Thomas Aquinas. Medieval authority, and those philosophers and people who blindly follow authority. Although they nominally advocate reason, but deeply reject scientific experiments from the heart, refusing to accept exact empirical facts, Bacon considered this to be anti-rational. It is also an abuse and misunderstanding of Aristotelian philosophy. When we think about these 4 obstacles outside of their historical context, we will find that in modern society, humans still cannot completely rid themselves of them. There are still many people who are superstitious about authority and tradition. The mob effect also frequently appears in cyberspace. There are also many who talk nonsense and deceive others. If we want to correct these irrational behaviors, we must try to understand ourselves. First, we must realize that people make mistakes. Both authorities and individuals make mistakes. From a human nature perspective, we have created a civilized order through cooperation and division of labor. But we are also constrained by cooperation and division of labor. We depend on a social way of life. Therefore, following the group's choices means adhering to authorities' opinions. Maintaining those traditional customs is a habit of our thinking. This not only reduces our decision-making costs, but also spreads unknown risks across the entire group. Even after the consequences occur, blaming decision-making responsibility on authority figures or opinion leaders to ease their own burden. Meanwhile, we fear being excluded from the group. If we do not follow authority and tradition, or mainstream societal values, we will struggle to develop our social relationships, repeatedly conflicting with the opinions of the group, even standing in opposition to the group, being criticized by others. Within a society, the longer the accumulation of experience, people are more likely to identify with the traditional order in culture, and these orders are manifested in values and folk customs, as well as in religious beliefs and other ways. The sense of security provided by traditional order creates an emotional connection with it. The stronger this emotional connection, rational opinions, the disclosure of the irrational aspects of traditional order, will be more discordant within the group. Therefore, irrational factors and rational factors are inevitably present. Even as we have increasingly advanced productivity, humans must also balance the scales of the two. This requires the continuous expansion of the foundation of compulsory education, continuously popularize common sense in civic education, reduce irrational blind obedience. At the same time, it is necessary to promote critical thinking, to enable people to distinguish the sources of information, ability to verify the reliability of information. Of course, the need to recognize ones, not just those watching the videos, including myself, including all science popularizers. Here, I also want to remind the science popularizers on media platforms, regardless of the knowledge you popularize, in which specific field, we all need to realize, science popularizers are not authoritative figures in the academic world, but he also differs from the general public. Strive to reduce authority, the information asymmetry between us and the public. That is our core purpose, as a messenger and translator between the two. What we pursue is universal comprehensibility, In other words, it is popular and easy to understand. However, being popular does not mean being vulgar or pandering. By vulgarizing serious knowledge to gain traffic and profits, it is an improper means, attracting attention with irrelevant topics. It will also divert the attention of the general public, and cannot achieve significant popular science effects. Secondly, in terms of language rhetoric, being overly delicate and nitpicking, it gives the impression of showing off and boasting. The dissemination of this content, it will also foster an exaggerated and arrogant atmosphere, trivializing serious knowledge into table talk and social currency. It is an unethical behavior that lacks professional ethics. Through linguistic implications, vague semantics, to increase the audience's irrational expectations of paid content, it is also a form of subjective deception. Individuals are people, but people also live within a community. A judgment made arrogantly in the name of reason by an individual, ridiculing the ignorance of the general public from a position of superiority. It's like arguing with oneself in the mirror. The reason we have to tolerate the existence of those irrational factors, because in this society, it also tolerates our irrational behavior at the same time. Follow me to take a popular look at philosophy. Friends, see you next time.